Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini.
Hey, Dr. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Carl. How about you?
Just a week ago, I was sitting across from you.
Yeah, no kidding. It's hard to believe it was a week already.
And I got out of there just in time because it snowed right after I got out of there.
I was thinking, man, we had great weather, and then, oh my goodness, yesterday Monday, it came down like crazy.
Now, you got a foot out by the house, right?
You got a snow day.
What's that?
I know of.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Say that again?
I said we had the first ever snow day. They actually closed the schools.
Really? Was it that much, or they just weren't prepared for it?
I think they weren't quite prepared. You know, we got about a foot in some areas, but I think it just came down so fast. You know, they weren't ready, so they didn't have the plows out. Maybe, I don't know.
Now I know that I want to say somebody from AAP, including your son, had commented that it really wasn't a lot of snow because they took a picture of the parking lot, but out in the areas like where you lived, you got hit pretty hard, right?
We did. You know, up here at the plant, it wasn't all that bad, but yeah, kind of on the west side of town, got dumped on. So yeah, that's where the schools are.
Okay, so we have a question from Sean Wasson. He says, "Hey, Dr. Jeff, love your show and love your products. I had a question about Inositol. Do you have any knowledge of this product and what it does? Does this help you to sleep? Can you discuss what it is and what it is used for?" Boy, I haven't heard about Inositol in a long, long time.
Yeah, you know, this is a good question from Sean because, no, you don't hear about it. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, kind of comes and goes. But, you know, it's interesting because inositol is always called a B vitamin. Mm-hmm. But, you know, by definition, vitamins are organic compounds that are necessary for our survival, but our bodies can't synthesize those. So we have to constantly take them in on a daily basis. But our body manufactures inositol. So technically, it's not really a B vitamin, you know.
Interesting. In fact, isn't it considered a sugar alcohol?
You know, I haven't heard that one. I mean, you know, it is, like a lipolytic, compound, just based on what it does. It's not really a sugar alcohol because it doesn't come from, you know, the production of sugar. I'm not quite sure how they actually produce those alcohols, but it's an interesting compound because it is, very, very beneficial, to our bodies. Obviously, our body produces it, so it must be something that we need to survive.
Yeah.
Very closely related to choline, which I think sometimes in the old days, you remember the choline and inositol,
yes.
neurotropic compounds, were usually mixed together, but it's a lipotropic agent or a fat emulsifier is kind of one of the main things that inositol does do. But it also has this calming effect. You know, it's involved in the production and action of neurotransmitters. These are chemicals that transmit messages between our nerve cells, and a couple of them are serotonin and acetylcholine. I saw a study that they are recommending for people who are even depressed.
Yes.
Because they're finding they have lower inositol levels than normal people. So a couple nice double-blind studies that have been out there. But again, very beneficial compound, you know, when you look at, you know, what is it good for? Well, it's important in fat and cholesterol metabolism. It's a lipotropic agent. You know, it removes the fats from the liver and lowers that blood cholesterol. Sometimes I think people, you know, we kind of forget about how our bodies actually work. You know, fats are processed through the liver, and our liver does build up fat. So this is an agent that actually gets in and helps to break up that fat and pose it into the bloodstream.
So inositol is, and as you point out, it's been used to treat depression. It's also been used to treat bipolar disorder, but in large doses. I'm talking like 25 and 30 grams a day, that's a lot of inositol, isn't it?
That is, they use it to prevent plaque buildup. It's needed for hair growth, healthy skin, prevents a lot of different types of zemia. It's considered a brain food. The list just goes on and on of the things that, our body uses it for. So it is involved in a lot of different functions in our body.
In one study, 18 grams a day was used to treat people with OCD. So if there's people out there who suffer from OCD and you are looking for alternatives to pharmaceutical drugs, you may want to look into inositol.
Absolutely. It's usually a white powder. I've seen it in the health food stores, just as a powder form. It's also, available in capsule form. So again, depending on, if you do need it. Now, probably the big question is, anytime we talk about a supplement, it's easy for us to run out and buy the latest new thing. So I want to talk about, what the deficiencies are of inositol, but more importantly, what causes you to be deficient. Mm-hmm. Because your body manufactures inositol, it's very difficult for you to be deficient in it. Plus, it is available in almost everything we eat. It is so abundant. But things like, eye abnormalities, being abnormal, eye problems and things.
You mean even like changes in vision?
That's what they say. Some changes in vision. Sometimes you'll get dry eyes. Anything that, your eye just doesn't seem right. Mm-hmm. That could be an inositol deficiency. Hair loss. Obviously, a lot of things go toward hair loss, but inositol is one of those things. Memory loss. A lot of people that sometimes you just can't think,
Clearly, yeah.
That short term. This is one I didn't know about, but constipation, could be an inositol. And obviously, high cholesterol levels. A lot of times, we go to our fish oils and we go to, some fancy.
Yeah, no one thinks about inositol at all.
No, again, that's why our body produces it to help to regulate that cholesterol levels in our body. So again, I think a lot of times before we go start taking all these cholesterol medicines, we might produce something as simple as taking in some inositol.
Okay, now before we talk about foods, sources of inositol, what kind of doses do you think people should look to if they are interested in determining if low inositol levels are causing some of these problems for them, to try to eliminate that it's inositol?
Well, here's the dose guide. There are certain things that will guarantee that you will be deficient in inositol. Number one is if you use antibiotics on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Those do lower your inositol levels. And here's another one, is if you consume more than 2 cups of coffee a day.
Is that
coffee
right?
Actually destroys the inositol.
Is it the caffeine or the coffee itself?
I think it's a combination. I think it's more of just what is in coffee. I'm sure the caffeine does help, but I don't know if it's part of that acidicness. But it contributes to a deficiency.
Wow, this is really exciting. So many of us in this audience are always looking for some obscure answer because we've tried other things and we just don't have the results we're looking for. And inositol is something that is completely off of our radar.
It is, and I thought that's why this was such a great question from Sean, because I'd actually, you forget about these things until you start looking into them. So if you're just looking to make sure that, you have sufficient amounts of inositol, you want to maybe lower some cholesterol, around that 500 milligram range is a good amount. We're going to talk about some more therapeutic dosages when we actually get into answering Sean's question about sleep. But, again, 500 milligrams is a pretty good amount. Now, if you're a coffee drinker or you use antibiotics on a more regular basis, you might need as much as 2 grams a day.
Well, let's talk about that. Okay, you and I actually talked about this to some degree when we were there on the radio at the AM radio station, but there are so many antimicrobials in our environment and in our food supply today. And the difference between an antimicrobial and an antibiotic is the dose and the duration. And what I mean by that is if you're using hand sanitizer that has triclosan in it, and you put it on your hands and you wash it off, the dose and the duration are very short. But if you're using products that you eat and ingest on a regular basis that have antimicrobials in them, these now start to act as antibiotics. What if the fact is that most of us are deficient in inositol because of the glyphosate in our food supply, which
Brother,
is a known antibiotic.
And that's the first thing I thought about is absolutely. I mean, we already know that glyphosate, what it's doing to our gut health. Well, if we're destroying, microbes, then that also is going to destroy inositol.
Right.
So why is there, such a buildup of, cholesterol, high cholesterol? Again, as we look over the last, 20 years and you and I always talk about, why do more people have this ailment than they did 20 years ago?
Right.
What has changed?
Right. Wow. We could be depleted in inositol. That could be part of the deal here. Okay. So, you want to go ahead and we'll take our break now, and then when we come back, we can talk about therapeutic doses of inositol and some conditions and sleep and stuff like that?
Yeah, we'll talk about some food sources, besides supplement, and then we'll talk about this whole sleep thing, because that's really exciting to me.
This is really great. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to show my age, but the last time I heard about inositol was in the late 70s and early 80s, because they were using it as a cut in cocaine. Back in the day,
exactly.
They used to use inositol to cut cocaine. So there you go. I'm an idiot. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Do you know how to properly use carbohydrates to ignite your performance in the field and in the gym? You will now, thanks to this free book by EFX Sports. The Carb User's Guide for Maximum Performance reveals why omitting carbohydrates from your diet can totally crush your gains. Ever wonder how many grams you need for your specific sport? Not anymore. We give you the critical number you need to dominate your competition. You'll even discover the super carb that's taking the athletic world by storm. You must try it to believe it. Go to getcarbolin.com/carb guide today and get your copy absolutely free. Once again, it's getkarbolin.com/CARBGUIDE. Hey, this is Carl. Start your day just like I do with a high-dose lipospheric vitamin C from Live On Labs. You too can benefit from Live On Labs' lipospheric delivery system. No more pills or powders. That's outdated technology. Live On Labs has the world's most efficient vitamin delivery system, period. Learn a lot more today at liveonlabs.com and benefit from their new reduced pricing. That's liveonlabs.com, Livon labs.com.
In today's day and age, it's refreshing to find a company with values that match yours. And it's even more extraordinary when the products they make exceed your expectation in every way. That's what Michael's Naturopathic Programs has done for over 30 years. With more than 50 tried and truthful high-potency formulas, Michael's Naturopathic Programs give your body what it needs. No more guessing what herb or vitamin, amino acid, or mineral you need. With Michael's, it's all in one bottle. From cardiovascular support, to weight management, to nervous system support, to detox and cleansing, and more. Michael's Naturopathic Programs work. They have to. Michael himself has been giving it to his own family from the very start. You can find Michael's product at your local health food store or go to michaelshealth.com and get your tried and truthful formulation. That's michaelshealth.com.
Prime Nutrition is proud to present Max HP, their most scientifically formulated pre-workout supplement to date. Now available in 2 great tasting flavors, tropic fruit and raspberry. Max HP is the most ultra premium pre-workout available and is made without any artificial colors, flavors, or dye. Increasing blood flow to heighten anabolic activity, Max HP is designed to meet the heightened metabolic needs of high-performance athletes. Visit PrimeNutrition.com and use coupon code SuperhumanRadio to receive 20% 20% off of your entire order. Go to PrimeNutrition.com today. The health and performance benefits of phytonutrients are indisputable, but getting all of your phytonutrients from your diet is difficult. That's why Prime Nutrition introduced PhytoForm. PhytoForm has nearly 11 grams of all the micronized veggies, fruits, fiber, minerals, and antioxidants you need. Alfalfa, organic spirulina, and chlorella, plus acai, pomegranate, goji, bilberry, blueberry, raspberry, cranberry, and papaya. Cabbage, spinach, broccoli, beet, the list goes on and on. You won't find a better, more complete fruits and greens blend anywhere. It even includes PQQ, which has been shown to improve mitochondrial biogenesis. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Prime Nutrition banner ad today and use coupon code SHR to save 30% off. Prime Nutrition, the best or nothing.
The category killer is back. Mass Pro Synthogen, with results literally from workout one. You'll recover like you're a teenager again. If you've been pouring your heart out in the gym with little to nothing to show for it, you owe it to yourself to see the performance-enhancing and cosmetic effects it can make almost immediately. One user said, I wish I could have tried it sooner. I just ordered 2 more bottles. And another, the overall single best bodybuilding supplement I have personally ever used. Visit CoachRobRegas.com or PredatorNutrition.com to learn more today. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Not all so-called deodorants are the same. Only Goodness Inside deodorant is a multi-benefit deodorant that's not only free of aluminum and toxins, but provides the body with nutrients it needs, like magnesium, pure dead sea salts, minerals, and vitamins.
I am a big fan of Only Goodness Inside, the MGDO Healthy Deodorant. I'm a businesswoman. I have to dress up at work. It goes on smooth, it dries quickly, and it never gets on my clothes.
Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Only Goodness Inside banner ad to save 25% off your order today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Welcome back to Science for Humans with my co-host, Dr. Jeff Galini. We're talking about inositol. I don't know about you out there, but I'm going to pick up inositol after the show today because I'm interested to find out if some of these snarky little ailments that I have could happen to be from an inositol deficiency.
Well, and sleep is probably the most important thing we need, and sometimes it's underrated. I hear people say, I can get by on 3 or 4 hours of sleep. No, you can't. I mean, that's when you grow, you recuperate.
You know who can get by with 4 hours of sleep, Dr. Jeff? People who don't do what we do in the gym. If you are an average person who gets up in the morning and has 2 cups of coffee and meanders through your day and sits at your desk and sits in your car, sits at your dinner table, and sits in front of the TV, then you get back in bed again, you don't know what it is to feel the way we feel when we are at peak performance levels.
I guess I forget about that. I've been this way since, oh my goodness,
right.
6th grade.
Yeah.
It's always early to bed, early to rise. But,
I know people who drink a lot of alcohol, go to the gym and do cardio, and they think that they feel good. They couldn't do the leg workout I did this morning, and I can't do it if I don't get good sleep. And right now I'm not sleeping well, so this is another reason why I can't wait to try inositol. So let's talk about the food sources you want to talk about.
So here's the fact: is inositol can contribute to a tranquilizing, kind of a drowsy feeling, which gives way to normal restless sleep. And it's kind of a 2-prong approach the way that this works. First of all, it improves the communication within the brain by unlocking calcium and triggering the action of various neurochemicals such as serotonin. And serotonin in particular is known to promote a greater sense of peacefulness and contentment. At night sometimes I wake up, I've got that racing mind effect, where things are just going. This is one of the things that inositol does, is it calms down that racing mind. As you mentioned, they're actually using this for OCD patients and for people, they call it hyperactive thoughts. This is an inositol imbalance, and inositol has been very, very effective. The second thing that it does, it works by diminishing stress response in the brain. And it does this by directly interacting with GABA receptors. Now, we've kind of heard about GABA in the nutritional industry, but these are 2 different things. GABA is the natural chemical which the body produces to inhibit the overfiring of the nerves. So again, calming you down. And somebody will probably say, well, I use GABA and doesn't that work? No, your body can't absorb that GABA. So it really isn't that effective. Inositol is very bioavailable in the form we see as a supplement, and this picks up the slack and behaves just like GABA in the brain.
Wow.
So again, very, very effective for calming you down.
How much should I be taking before bed, Dr. Jeff?
So I'm going to recommend that you start with 500 milligrams, but for some you may need as much as 2 grams. Mm-hmm. So it's always best to use a little bit less, because if that's effective, there's no sense in taking
more, right?
Too much. There doesn't really seem to be any side effects from taking this particular compound. Now, it is available in a lot of your food sources. So I think for the most part, we eat eggs, we eat nuts, all your leafy greens, your beans, your whole grains, all of the organ meats. So for the most part, I think we are getting in enough inositol our body is producing. But as you said, I think we are destroying the inositol by the pesticides and things that we're ingesting.
Well, there's also some evidence that while grains contain inositol, as many plant-based foods contain inositol, it's the phytate form and it's not bioavailable. The body does not absorb it. The more absorbable forms of inositol are found in things that contain naturally occurring lecithin, like eggs, as you pointed out. Like
it's the myo-inositol, which is the most common in the natural form.
Yes.
But you want to take it about an hour before bed. So
you take it about an hour before bed, maybe even with your melatonin, and then get in bed and see how you sleep. I'm going to try it tonight. I'm actually going to try a larger dose because I want to see if it knocks me out.
I know you're always. If I say 1, you take 3. So
yeah, well, I want to see. I know this sounds crazy. If I take a supplement and it makes my symptoms worse, I get excited because I know I'm on the right track. I'm just heading in the wrong direction.
Correct. And so again, where do you buy it at? And I always say this: make sure you go to a reputable health food store, vitamin shops. Someplace where they do some research before they buy the product. Because again, you want to make sure you get pure inositol. As you said right before break, I remember when I worked at GNC, there was a big spurge of inositol sales, and I couldn't figure out why all these wacky people were buying it.
People who clearly didn't work out, right? They were skinny, they had dark circles around their eyes. They're like, where's the inositol?
And I finally asked a guy, I'm like, man, thanks for buying it. I'm making a commission on this, but what are you doing with all this? And he goes, oh, I cut cocaine with it. And I'm like, I didn't hear nothing.
Right. And that's because it was innocuous. You could snort it and it didn't hurt your nose and it didn't have any nasty side effects. And so it was, and you're right. We were told it was a B vitamin back then, but obviously it's not.
No, and we still are. You read books, it says it's one of the B vitamins. But like I said, when you look at the definition, it's not. So, again, find a reputable brand, because again, you don't want to be taking something that's cut with maltodextrin or sugar or something. And inositol isn't very expensive, so I don't even know why people would even cut it. But this day and age, everyone's trying to save a buck here or there.
Well, I remember inositol has a very cool and almost sweet taste on the tongue. When you put it on the tongue, it actually feels cool to the touch of your tongue, and it has a mildly sweet taste. I would say it's not as sweet as sugar, but it definitely is sweet. Would you agree with that statement?
I actually have not tried it in so many years that as soon as we get done, I'm heading back to the lab because I got a bottle of it. And I'll
just don't take it too early in the day. You'll want to go home and go to sleep.
You know what? Well, I'm thinking about, what about if you're having a rough day or something and you need to just calm down a little bit?
Well, you said that. It mitigates stress. And we all live in a high stress life today between what the news is telling us and what our job is telling us and everything else.
So I'm going to look at, I'm going to definitely try it before I go to bed for a couple nights, but I'm going to try it in the morning too and see if it just kind of keeps me a little more calm.
So if 500 milligrams work for somebody, should they try 1,000? And and how long should they take it before they discount that it's working or not working?
Well, I think it's something that, again, it does work. I mean, you look at how our biochemistry reacts, but I would say that it should work in the first dose. I mean, this isn't something that you have to build up. I mean, it's something that's in and out of your system on a daily basis, so you have to use it every day. So I would say that you probably are going to feel good in the first dose. But again, if 500 milligrams relaxes you and puts you to sleep, you don't have those racing thoughts, then I wouldn't consider using any more. But if you have like a high stress day where you come home and you just want to go to bed, that's when I might take a gram or two. But on normal days, if you're feeling good and a smaller amount works, stick with a smaller amount.
This show is called Science for Humans, and this particular episode truly delivered on it. I got to tell you, I want to hear from people in the audience who experiment with inositol. Please,
it'd be good
contact
to
us.
hear what you guys come up with. Maybe you come up with some other stack or something that you take it with, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking go to superhumanradio.com where it says Ask the Scientist and comment. Tell Dr. Jeff if you tried it, what it did for you, and we'll do a follow-up show once we gather enough information.
Absolutely. And go there. If you have any questions, you can always ask them. I love answering your questions. Follow me on Facebook. Always putting lots of cool stuff up there. And I know a lot of you have you received all those little presents that Santa FedEx brought you, and you were so generous to thank me and send pictures. So I hope everyone enjoys those Christmas presents that they got from me.
Yeah, because we won't have another. Will we have another Science for Humans before the holiday? I'm trying to think. I forget.
I think we got next week is the arm workout. That's going to be kind of our Christmas present. Is we're going to talk about how to build some big old pythons.
There you go. Okay, listen, Dr. Jeff, thanks so much for today's information. I can't wait to go out and buy some inositol today.
All right, and you let me know too, Carl, how it works.
Okay, thanks, brother.